boy, do I have a cavalcade of cheating for you today. On the left, we have the innocent party, Sean Gallagher, the person who's actually scummed out of a win and cut out of the top 8 because of this. On the right, we have Connor Patterson, a player who's disqualified from this NRG event. I shall draw your attention to the 2 planes that are in play. This is the reason they were disqualified, but not their only cheat. That's right, this has layers, like an onion. Cheaters are just like onions. Wizards of the Coast won't keep track of either of them. More on that in a moment. But in essence, the 2 planes here are weird because Connor doesn't have them in his deck list. If you are not really a regular Magic player or competitive Magic player, let me explain what a deck list is. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's a list that shows your deck. But the point is you submit this before an event so that you, the judges and the tournament organizers know what you're playing. This serves many, many purposes, one of which is to stop you cheating. So for example, if you are playing cards that weren't in your deck when you registered at the beginning of the event, that would show that you're cheating. Or should I say potentially cheating. Now, to be very clear, having a card in play or in your deck that's not on your deck list doesn't mean you have cheated per se. Let me unpack that a little bit. Cheating requires intent. You are going out of your way to get an upper hand through playing outside the rules. Sometimes a deck registration error, which this could be, can just be a simple mistake. Story time. I once got a game loss, I think it was, because I was playing Sarah Avenger at a Legacy event and I'd written Sarah Angel on my deck sheet. Just simply a brain fart from me. I'm quite easily distracted, and if someone's talking to me while filling out my deck list, I will fuck it up. I also once registered a Shaman of the Great Hunt during Standard, back when Khans of Tarkir came around the first time. I used to call this card with my friends Shaman of the Great Cunt, because we thought it was funny, and thus when I was writing my deck list, I had to be really careful and consciously not write the naughty profane word. So I'm thinking to myself, hunt, hunt, hunt. So I write Master of the Wild Hunt, which wasn't legal in Standard at the time. And later on down the line, this got me a warning, not a game loss, because Master of the Wild Hunt wasn't in Standard. And thus the judge was explaining how they didn't think I was trying to get an advantage here. It was very clearly a mistake, and thus they were going to give me a warning. The only real crime I was guilty of that day was trying to play Master of the Wild Hunt in Standard. The game loss, actually, come to think of it, with the Sarah Avenger, I think was also downgraded, because they said it was very abundantly clear I wasn't playing Sarah Angel in the 2-drop slot when I'd numerically ordered my deck sheet via mana cost. That was the judges being very kind at a PTQ. Oh, sorry, a GPT. It was a GPT. Back when they existed. I'm old. So the point is, this doesn't necessarily mean that Connor Patterson was cheating by having a second planes in play. They could have simply filled out their form incorrectly before submitting it in the morning, and then thus that went badly later. Problem is, having a deck registration error doesn't normally get you DQ'd, and we don't have the information from the actual judging team or the event staff to tell us exactly what the DQ was. But we do have other players at the event telling us more information. For instance, there is an account on Twitter that this player also killed someone with a Restless Bivouac in one game, which was also not in their deck sheet. Okay, so now we've got a Plains and a Restless Bivouac showing up. Okay, well, some of you are watching this thinking this isn't the cheat I signed on for, Vince. I want to hear more juicy stuff than someone filling out their sheet wrong. But what if I told you the Restless Bivouac showed up in one game and the Plains showed up in another, where both of them were uniquely useful in those situations? And then what if I told you that that player was hiding cards on top of their deck? It's about to get interesting. But before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, a sponsor that will not cheat you on quality. That's Gamegenic. If Gamegenic aren't currently your favorite accessory provider, they will be soon. I'm putting all my commander decks in them. This is the Squire, and the Squire comes with this side panel that you can put your commander in, a UV protected case that can come out and be used as a game piece, but also just fits into the deck so you can have them on your shelf and you can tell which commander deck it is at a glance. Because I own far too many commander decks. I've got this board game situation where I am having all the precons from like Universes Beyond. In this case, this is a Warhammer one, and this is a Doctor Who one, and I have them all in a long box. And in that long box now, I've got these. These are the Bastions. They come in 50+, so you can use them for smaller things, or they come in these 100+ XLs. And importantly, unlike other brands that I will not name by name, they actually have like plastic latches in them that allow them to actually seal and connect and not fall apart in your hand. They have enough of a tug to make it not fall out easily when you pick them up, but at the same time they come apart without you having to really strain. I am laboring this because this is the best, like, simple, like, perfect deck box you've ever fucking seen. This is going to be my cube when the cards arrive next week. That's right, I'm on a bloody cube hype. I couldn't do an ad spot without mentioning cube. Here's some Gamegenic sleeves, Vince, for your cube. There is a reason all your favorite content creators are sponsored by Gamegenic. It's because they're the best. If you want to pick up any Gamegenic gear, do so at your local game store. All good game stores have it. And if you want to buy anything from CoolStuffInc.com, don't forget to use the code Kenobi at checkout for 5% off your order, or this code on screen right now for magicmadhouse.co.uk in Europe. both selling Gamegenic stuff because it's the best stuff on the market. Thank you to Gamegenic for sponsoring this video. Sean Gallagher did post an entire statement explaining the whole situation, where at the end of their game, he was actually asked to pause by the NRG team in order for them to resolve this deck issue when 2 planes were spotted, but he didn't hear them. He scooped up and wandered off and went to dinner. Not an ideal scenario, because it means that Sean didn't get to rightfully win that game and go on to the semi-finals and play for better prizes. Sean is the actual victim in all of this, or the most prominent victim in all this, but there are other players reporting that they were getting beaten by stuff that shouldn't have been in the deck because it wasn't in the deck list. Sean even mentions that having an extra planes helps if you want to hit your white sources in a longer match against blue-white control, which he was on, or to give you another white source against Field of Ruin. But the thing is, it would be strange if the player was looking to just change one card between matchups going into a match, because you don't often know what you're playing into. That would be a very weird way of cheating at Magic, especially in an open deck list scenario, because people will be able to notice that stuff. So something more dubious might be going on. Massive shout out to LavaOx, who posted this detailed breakdown of what they noticed about Connor's behavior during the top 8 matches. If you want to read the entire breakdown, I will link it in the description below. I'm not going to go through and read the entire thing. I'm going to point out the bits that are super interesting. Namely, if you were to look via the gifts that were provided at the round 4 and round 6 feature matches featuring Connor, he plays very openly. They have their hand open so the overhead camera can see the cards they're drawing, and they have very open body language. This will become relevant in a moment. When we get to the feature match, their demeanor has changed significantly. They are playing slunched over, they are not revealing their hand to the camera above, they are crossing their arms and laying their hand against them so no one can see it. This is interesting primarily because of the accusation that we're about to level at them. And by accusation, I mean the thing we get to see with the overhead camera. Now again, you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. When it comes to playing in the top 8 of a tournament, the stress levels go higher and thus your demeanor can change. And over the course of a day, your energy levels can drop too. Absolutely. The thing is, the bit that sort of like shrugs that all off is the card hidden on his lap. At this point here, where Connor goes to untap and draw a card for turn, we can see something on the lap that is the exact same turquoisey teal color as their sleeves. Yeah, interesting, right? They draw a card here, and we get to do some real snooping. People on Twitter, including the LavaOx, have had a look at close-ups to suggest that this is a Battlefield Forge. It looks very much like it's a Battlefield Forge, which is a pain land that taps for 1 white and 1 red. Yes, the resolution when enhanced is very bad, but let's look at that color grading from a darker to a lighter, from a red to a white. If you look at every printing of Boros Charm, there isn't a single one with that color gradient. Meanwhile, Battlefield Forge does indeed have that color gradient, and they also put that color gradient version of Battlefield Forge in the deck. The really damning evidence to suggest that this is the pain land that we believe it to be from the slightly cagey and difficult to see overhead shot is that Connor looks to go and play the card as a land. This is the gesture of someone thinking about making a spell cast, or more likely a land drop as they put the card into their lands. They think, and they decide not to. They instead use the utility land to pump up their mouse. At this point, even coverage is saying that the thing that Sean needs to be most wary of is a Boros Charm as it ends the game right here. Sean is on 3 life, not 5. That was a mistake with the UI. He passes back to Sean, who doesn't do a whole lot, and passes back to Connor after making a treasure and ends up with the fountain path. Then we see Connor cast the trick shot show off, it doesn't get countered, and finishes the game with a Boros Charm. It turns out the coverage was actually wrong, that Sean was on 3 life here. The Boros Charm was lethal, the slick shot was an attempt to bait out a counterspell. Now, the problem is that when we see the hand overhead, we can tell that the third unknown card that isn't the slick shot show off, nor the Boros Charm, is no longer a Battlefield Forge. It's difficult to make out, but the theory is that this is an Urabrask's Forge. We can tell from the color of the text box and the framing. Props to Connor, he's doing very well at hiding his hand from us, but we do get to see it in the overhead shot as he casts the Boros Charm. Again, I'm taking very heavily from LavaOx's breakdown here, which is fantastic, by the way, link in the description below. They point out that at one point they have 1 card in hand. They draw a new card that we can gather is Battlefield Forge. They then, at the end of the game with 1 more card drawn, but they suddenly have Urabrask's Forge, a Boros Charm, and a slick shot. So, like, where did the Battlefield Forge go? Oh, it went onto his dick. On the turn after Connor activates the utility land to grow their creature and passes back to Sean, who then makes the treasure of the fountain. And that's the turn in which they drew the Battlefield Forge. We see him play with his hand here. Let's break it down slowly. We see his hand move to under the table, and he's just doing something with his table. What the hell is he doing with his elbow? It looks like he's fidgeting it around in something. And he even looks down. There's even a glance down. Like, what is he looking at? It looks like he's turning off like a vibrating call in his phone from a pocket phone. Sean is focusing on his game plan. He's tapping lands. He's making a treasure. All that good stuff. Keep in mind there is a mirroring between the overhead and the actual face cam shot. That's why it's different arms. And he pulls his hand out from his lap and then itches his face and goes back to holding his hand below the table. He leans back. That's right. Looking at his hand really far back. Make sure that overhead camera can't see your hand, Connor. It would be bad if we noticed that one of your cards is magically transformed into a useful spell like a Boros Charm. And to clarify, the Boros Charm could have been the unknown card initially when they drew the Battlefield Forge. But at the end of the game, we know there's no Battlefield Forge in their hand. The Battlefield Forge has magically disappeared, and the Boros Charms end up being the card that wins in the game. Commentary team are commenting about how this is the best possible card they could draw at this time, and Connor's probably reasonably good at the game. You know, that's a lot of cheaters normally are. You got to know a bit about Magic to get there, and thus knows that he just needs to pull the Boros Charm out of his pocket, out of his deck box, out of something below the table. God knows what's going on there. There's another report as well that he may have been playing more Boros Charms in earlier matches than he had registered to his entire deck list, but again, that's unsubstantiated. The interesting thing about like covering this cheated stuff is really I try to cover the things that we can see on camera. Some of this is hearsay from Twitter and people on social media talking about the event. It's why when we get a he said, she said, or they said sort of situation with no overhead camera, I'm a lot more lenient about how I feel about the cheater in question. The fact that they were DQ'd, the deck list was consistently wrong to the point that there was extra basic lands in there than there should have been, and all of this cagey behavior with hands down the table, and then some on-camera footage where magically their Battlefield Forge disappears and their hand becomes all playable gas cards in the red versus the blue-white control matchup. Yeah, it's very clear he's cheating. So why are we seeing more of this? Is it because there's more coverage? Well, that's probably one of the elements to this, right? Is that we're seeing more stream stuff, and we're seeing more content creators like myself, Saffron Olive, Nikachu, whoever else is covering this, who is going to show this stuff and do commentary on it. Hell, people are taking to social media to talk about it, like the LavaOx account that shared this whole thing, so they were breaking their Twitter silence to post this. But why are people doing that? Well, the content creators are doing it because you lot love cheating videos, but also there is an element of we don't want these cheaters to be playing the game anymore because it ruins the fucking game. But beyond that, breaking Twitter silences and tirades and stuff, it's not a witch hunt. People aren't just going out of their way to hurt someone. They're doing this because there's no other ramifications for cheating. The system is fucked. Once upon a time, there used to be like a DCI sort of like registered list of people who got a ban for any amount of time. And once upon a time, even further back than that, I used to tell you why. There are Reddit threads you can find. I've got one right here on screen where people are asking like, why have these people got lifetime bans? And people in the comments are saying, striking a judge or producing a knife. It wasn't just for cheaters, it was for people who were just problematic and toxic and not good to have around anyway. Over time, they removed the reason for ban bit, but you could still see that certain players were banned for lifetimes. There were Reddit threads where people celebrated the banning of notorious and famous cheats, like Blatant Cheaty, who I've covered on this channel before. The problem is that Wizards of the Coast have pulled away from supporting the Judge program as a in-house connected thing to the mothership. It used to be that the Judge program was like channeled through Wizards of the Coast. Now they want to avoid any situation where they could get taken to court because judges are some sort of freelancing stuff that they should be looking after. They want to pay less money and have less responsibility, and thus the DCI no longer truly exists. This means community projects have cropped up to try and keep the Judge program going, so events can be staffed by people who know the rules and can help to enforce this stuff. And thus this means there's no DCI anymore. There's no tracking of people getting disqualified or banned for life, and thus it's on the tournament organizers themselves, NRG in this case. But that doesn't stop this Connor Pattinson from going to another event at another town or a non-NRG event and doing the same shit. They're pulling Battlefield Forges and Boros Charms out of their piss hole. The whole thing is really, really fucked because it creates this air that competitive Magic is in a spot where the cheaters can prosper. Obviously, this one is caught, but how many aren't caught? How many get to cheat their way through the lower and mid tables and then play fairly when they get to top 8 and don't do the stupid thing of cheating actually on camera? Because that's the point. Some of these people are so compulsive and so bad at this, they have to end up cheating on camera, like Connor Pattinson did, and get caught, but they got DQ'd for something else anyway. The on-camera cheat got caught after the fact by social media having more scrutiny. And thus that means A, the people who manage to turn off the cheating when they get to the top 8 tables get to prosper, and B, the players under less scrutiny aren't getting their cheats discovered. The solution to this is to have players that get caught cheating have some sort of ramifications for that, as both a deterrent to stop people from cheating generally, but also to avoid tournaments being ravaged and ruined by serial cheaters. It helps to protect the players that are paying in to play your game. For the love of fucking God, they can't keep getting away with this. We can't have every weekend be some dickhead hiding cards in his lap showing up on Twitch. A list of previously disqualified or banned players would help to track this, that they can't continue doing this, that they are banned or disqualified for some period of time. Even my dogs agree. Witch hunts and vigilante justice and all that sort of shit is shite, right? We don't need that stuff. The reason that I want to bring this to a head in a video is that we as a community can call out the players that are doing this on a regular so they don't get to play in more tournaments. I don't want this person harassed, but I don't want them cheating at events and cheating people out of money and energy and time. And to be very fucking clear, that is what they are doing. When you cheat at a card game, it is tragic. You are cheating at a card game, essentially, right? A children's card game to really devalue what Magic actually is. But the reality is people are taking time out of their lives. They're taking their weekends and their hobby time to travel with friends, to go to events, to pay money to stay at and attend these events. This is their hobby time. This is their precious life. And they should do things that they enjoy, and they shouldn't have those things torn away from them or fucked up by people who are conniving little shitbags. And at present time, Wizards of the Coast is doing fucking nothing to support that idea. It's just the Wild West again. It's like classic old school Magic. And that's the really funny bit, right? Seth's already mentioned this in a video that I'm aware that he's done. He talks about how the card in the lap is similar to the famous Mike Long's cards in lap, the Cadaverous Bloom. Either way, I've covered that in a video before. It's why he sits on chairs like this at later events to prove he's not cheating, even though he's cheating in other ways. I've covered that all in another video that I'll link to down below. But I thought this was interesting for the fact that they got DQ'd, they got caught in a way, but not for the thing that is the most egregious of the cheats. There's multiple cheats going on here. Or should I say there may have been multiple cheats going on here, but it may have just been a selection of a dozen cards in pocket, extra lands that they need, burn spells or whatever that they just palmed into their hand and used when they needed to, and that's how the deck registration error caught it. Also goes to show that deck registration is important to help avoid this shit from being too common in Magic. Let's try and get Magic back to being a competitive game that is worthwhile and isn't plagued by this shit. And the way we do that is by hopefully seeing Wizards of the Coast give a fuck and have some sort of input. Fix the judge program, support them, do something, Wizards, fucking hell. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget, if you're going to go out and buy any gear to put your decks in, it should be Gamegenic. It's the best stuff on the market. Look how strong this magnet is. It's so good. Ta-ta for now, dickheads. Ta-ta for now.